We have hot mic, and we have started the show. We definitely weren't saying anything controversial before we was on the air. With me today, I have the reoccurring guest for his fourth appearance on the show, Tripp Ainsworth, and I believe we have hot mic, and we have started the show. We definitely weren't saying anything controversial before we was on the air.
Why can I hear that? Lost count how many times I've come on here with you.
There we go.
It's at least 2 or 3, right?
That's going to be taken out of context.
Yeah, no, yeah. Everyone clip count saying I've lost count how many times I've came on it. I think count's been on. It's 5 times on the show and 6 times on the channel, because we did the episode of the dictators video. But yeah,
we've done dictators. We did the history thing. We did the Hogwarts houses. We did the last one, and now this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the church one was pretty cool. I think it was a church anyway. I had it on in the background. Might have been a cathedral or just some old building.
Oh,
they all look like
the vlog. Oh yeah, no, including the vlog. This is like your 8th
the
appearance
vlog
on the channel. This is including the vlog. I think it's like your 7th or 8th appearance on the channel. Yeah, the cathedral where Count blasphemed. and then sitting going, it's just a joke, nothing's gonna happen. I jokingly said, if we get struck by lightning, I'm gonna like genuinely haunt you. And what happened after we walked out of the Roman Museum 2 hours later? There was not 1 but 2 thunderstorms.
You should tell people that you did get struck by lightning, and that's how you got your mustache.
Yeah, that would be some deep lore. That would be how I got. So, anyways, I need to do intros. I got completely distracted. Okay, so Tripp, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Tripp. I write books. I paint shit. I swear a lot. I'm the requisite asshole American on this. I think the term's ugly American, but fuck it.
I mean, technically the term is Yankee fuck, but that's a slur, and we can't get away with that.
Actually, I'm from the South, so Yankee fuck.
The South will rise again.
Yeah. So South refers to people from above the Mason-Dixon line, and I take heed with that.
Okay, so it's even more offensive. And Count, would you like to introduce yourself?
My name's Count Daedalus. I talk about history, I talk about space, and I hate, but I do talk about politics on TikTok.
Yeah, I mean you've managed to get away from that recently. To be fair,
I've been trying to avoid it like the plague.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll start. So the premise of today, guys, is obviously it's International Men's Day, or International Men's Mental Health Day, which obviously the premise for it is we're instead of doing a whole stream talking about men's mental health, which can get quite downbeat, I thought let's talk about some positive stories that blokes have done throughout history and in the darkest parts of mankind. And to start that off, I'm going to read you the annotated form, because for research I actually just watched my own video back. And then went, oh my goodness, my old videos were horrific.
Wait, so your source is trust me, bro?
My old video had like a list of sources there, but today it's my sources myself, which I did research. And to be fair, I'm reading the annotated form that Sabaton kindly put out recently, because they decided all of their songs need a historical backing, which makes sense because all of their songs are historical. As usual, guys, let me know if any of my audio go. I keep trying to get the microphone in, because everyone says the microphone's far away and they can't hear me.
I can hear you
closer. Right.
So, I guess now's not inappropriate jokes about not being able to hear you.
Well, I just just for the entire stream, it's just you guys winding me up, going, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me?" Right.
You cut out.
Now I'm not going to know to trust you the rest of the stream. Right, okay, let's get going. Otherwise, this is going to be like a 4-hour-long stream again.
Yes.
Right. This is the story of the Franz Stigler and Charlie Brown incident, although the internet calls it Charlie Brown Franz Stigler incident. I learned it the other way around. So on the 20th of December 1943, the American Flying Fortress Boeing B-17 bomber named Ye Olde Pub was flying towards northern Germany. It formed part of an 8-mile-long bomber stream making its way to northern Germany. to target a Focke-Wulf aircraft factory. Yeah, I'm learning German so I can correctly pronounce this stuff. In the city of Bremen. Piloting the Flying Fortress is the B-17's own. For the first time is Charlie Brown. Bearing in mind, Charlie Brown at this point is 21 years of age, and he is the captain and heading an entire crew. I've just realised I probably should have put my phone on mute.
Well, I mean, the thing about that is, like, people like to forget that most wars fought by fucking boys. So 21, he's kind of the old man of the group at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I remember my dad was telling me, like, years ago. My dad telling me when he wanted to go into like the RAF, like I think when he was like 25, they said that you'd be called Granddad,
Mm-hmm.
like because he'd be considered old, like to join.
Yeah.
Anyways, they ready Lives Tango among 379th Bombardment Group in his hands. They ready their 12 500-pound bombs. Shortly after 11 a.m., they nervously cross the German border on the lookout for enemy fighters, because if they can see Germany, then Germany can see them, and may calculate their height, speed, and intended destination. Covering them are escorts of P-47 Thunderbolts, who, if needed, will intercept the enemy. That's not 100% correct. The actual mission on that day for the P-47 Thunderbolts wasn't to protect the bombers, it was to fly off and take out enemy fighters. So if they came under attack, they would have no protection. In the business, we call this foreshadowing. At 11:30, puffs of black smoke appear as German 88mm flat cannons are opening fire, sending 20-pound shells into the air. Each has a differently timed fuse, so they explode at different altitudes. The explosions rock the pub, Ye Olde pub, and Charlie can barely see through the smoke. Suddenly, a red flash explodes right before his eyes. The plexiglass nose of the plane is sheared off and smashes against the windshield. The men up at the front are unhurt but ice cold. As winds now stream through the plane. The outside air is minus 60 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit for the Americans.
I know that negative 30 is the same in both Fahrenheit and Celsius. So in Fahrenheit, it's still a lot colder than negative 30.
Yeah. The shelling continues, another red flash, and engine number 2 dies. Another shell goes through the left wing, another before exploding further above, and on the right engine number 4 is lost and begins spinning wildly out of control. Charlie fights the controls and to keep the wing ripping off, but yet another shell rips through his roof. His main focus to keep the plane straight as the command to drop bombs comes through the radio. The old Puv gives a kick as the heavy cargo falls onto the smoking city below. And now it's time to head home. This is where things go really wrong, and this is a bit I know quite well off by heart. Is that Ye Olde pub and this and another plane were like the only two to really get it bad, so they're trundling along. So as they're flying back home, the P-47 Thunderbolts, they all F off and they decide, okay, like, we're done now. And they see the plane behind them dip below the clouds, and they're like, okay, you know, he's like losing altitude, he's probably going to land safely. And then they see a big flash come from behind the clouds, and they're like, okay, he's not going to land safely. And of course, a few seconds after that, hang on, because I want to get his name right. I believe it says his name right. No, it just says his co-pilot. Okay, excellent. So his co-pilot then screams out bandits, which they don't include in Sabaton's version, which is, I got right in my video and they didn't. Haha, joking, I love Sabaton. So he screams out bandits. Now first, the first ones they see are Focke-Wulf 190s, which I do find quite ironic because that's the factory they were blowing up. So the Focke-Wulf 190s begin their attack.
Yeah, they come in and
Yep. We've got literal visualizations on the stream now.
I was literally pulled out of
Our budget's going up. We've got visualizations. At the same time, a group of Messerschmitt 109s leap through the cloud, where the other B-17 had just disappeared. Charlie's men readies the machine guns as the two lead 190s aim for the pub's cockpits. We literally got all of the planes. How have you just pulled all of these planes out of nowhere?
Well, I mean, brief side tangent. I used to have like every plane made in World War II at one point, back when I was in high school, and throughout moving and just being alive for fucking 20 years after that.
Yeah.
I got these two, an ME-262, and then like whatever the Italian one is. So if you come to my house, instead of having this awesome airplane collection, it just looks like I got a bunch of fucking Nazi shit.
You should definitely put that as a thumbnail. Just me and you, history, just randomly looking on as he's playing with. He's playing with his aircraft. Yeah, exactly like that.
I might actually redo the thumbnail now just for a laugh. Charlie's men ready their machine guns as the two lead 190s aim for the cockpit to take out the pilot and the controls in one attack. Charlie turns and flies full speed towards the attackers. So it's not really known why Charlie did this. In multiple interviews, he's openly said he was kind of just in the moment. If I'm gonna die, this is the only way I can think of to get away from it. So what he was trying to do was to close the distance. So obviously, as they're coming in, aerial combat's completely different to ground combat. They're having to sit there and figure out where he's going to be to shoot there. And his idea was if he flew straight at them, it closes the distance quicker. And this worked, and they shot over him. Well,
the other thing too, though, is like this is a flying fortress, right?
Yes, B-17, yeah.
Okay, so like I know the nose cone's gone, but the enemy fighters, they can only shoot forward as they're going. But if the nose cone is going on that, the flying fortress should still have, I think, 4 more sets of machine guns on it. So
yes,
if the enemy misses, as it flies past, the waist gunners, or the bubbler, actually tail gunner or the belly gunner could tag it as it passes.
Yeah. Okay. That's where the extra knowledge comes in that I didn't have. Charlie falls, banks off. As I said, Charlie's top gunner returns fire and hits one of the 190s. It banks off on fire, and the second 190 is hit by the nose gunner whilst trying to avoid collision. The flying fortress comes off. Still has some fight. Now, 109's move from behind. The tail gunner tries to spin his gun, but nothing happens. The winds blowing through the plane have now frozen the oil in the gun. The attackers close in, and the tail gunner signals Charlie, and he jerks the plane into a steep bank. Bullets ricochet off the frame, penetrating the glass ball turret beneath the plane and cutting off half of the rudder. The radio operator calls for help, but gets only static, as bullets have now pierced the radio, and 20mm shells have punched through the plane and severely wounded many crew members. One of them, I believe at this point, has his leg attached literally by like a few tendons. So he's just like laying there pretty much useless at this point. And multiple of them are like severely bleeding. Like this is like that if they don't make it out of the situation soon, they're done for. Charlie fights.
And then
sorry, on.
Oh, I was gonna say, and then also for context for people watching, on the Flying Fortress, the weapons on that would have been burning Mark II 50 cals, and the way that they work, like that gun, the receiver is the size of a small car engine, and it's got a lot of moving parts in it, and to not have the thing break, you have to pump it full of lubrication, which is effectively motor oil, or think of it like that, but like you have different lubrications for different temperatures or like environments that you're going to have it in, and on aircraft, that one that we'd use, I think, is rated for like -10 degrees. So that would have locked up the machine guns to where, like, if you pulled it apart, you can move all the shit in it, but it wouldn't fire by itself because it's ice cubes together, pretty much. But think of it like motor oil, less ice.
I mean, that makes sense to me, but also I'm not enough of a mechanic enough to fully understand it. This is the issue when you get trains everywhere and you've never touched a car in your life.
Well, I mean, I'm saying that for people listening at home, want more context. Why would their gun freeze? I mean, it's a physical.
And I was just making the I'm the dumb naive Brit joke. That was what I was doing. Okay, I'm getting the most disapproving look from Count ever.
He's like, you watch like 2 YouTube videos, man. Like, it's not hard to know how 50 cal works.
Also, from our mod Pumpkin Bear, she says, as another Southerner, it doesn't surprise me that he has all the planes.
Oh, bit of a Southern thing then, is it?
there's a lot of air bases down there. Because like, obviously, America's a fucking big place. So the further up north you get, the more ice you get, and especially where modern technology is now, it's easier to have a plane fly up to, like, say, DC from Florida than it is to, have one possibly on a runway that's snowed over, and you're not gonna be able to get the planes off the tarmac if you have a, say, up in like Minnesota or some shit. Like, not to say that there aren't air bases up there, but you want better temperate weather for, I don't know, fucking reaction shit.
So Canada's Air Force is just kind of screwed.
Well, I mean, things are getting better now, where you put, like heating elements in the runway, so it doesn't like ice up. But that is something you have to factor into. I don't know, fucking logistics shit.
Or in Trudeau's case, you just use the money that you stole from the truckers to heat up the runway. That's my political joke for the evening.
And let the Chinese train in your outskirts.
It's funny because it's true. The 109's Tau Gunner, radio operator. The Tau. This is where we start losing crew. Severely wounded. The Tau Gunner is now dead, and all of them are affected by the frost. They're severely wounded, and most of them are beginning to get early onset frostbite very, very quickly. Charlie fights to keep the ruins of his plane in the air with only one gun still operable. Under attack, the cockpit is hit, puncturing Charlie's oxygen tank. At this point, the plane tips out of control, and having no oxygen, Charlie passes out. The loss of the tail rudder makes it virtually impossible to keep control of any planes. As the bomber plunges towards the city of Oldenburg, Charlie manages to come to with the lower altitude, meaning he now has oxygen. He immediately hauls the controls, fighting the plane with all his strength, and at just 3,000 feet, he pulls out of his dive right above the houses of Oldenburg. The plane is close enough to shear shingles off of the roofs, and Charlie manages to pull the plane back up, at least what's left of it, and most of the crew is either wounded or unconscious. Where am I?
At least they were unconscious and not dead.
Yeah, and I think being unconscious at this point, bearing in mind how much pain most of them are probably in, is probably for the best.
Probably preferable.
Yeah, well, the other thing too, though, is if your guns are down, you're freezing to death. You can't really do anything. Like, the pilot and the co-pilot are the only people that have any effect on what the fuck's happening at all. So it's either be passed out or be awake and freak the fuck out. I mean, unless somebody's gonna pull out their sidearm and try to take pop shots at,
Imagine they're like, hey, how come we're now starting to take out the Messerschmitts?
Well, there was a thing in the Pacific where this is a fucking documented thing. I don't remember what the guy's name is. But American fighter pilot gets shot down, parachutes out, and the Zero comes back to start shooting the parachuters, and this dude pulls out his fucking pistol and caps the fucking Zero pilot.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
I do
very ungentlemanly warfare.
Yeah, the Japanese weren't good at gentlemanly warfare for a society that was built for hundreds of years on codes of honor. They kind of forgot that.
What are you implying?
I'm not implying anything about Japan's actions in Nanking, in World War. But sorry, I'm not implying that they would do anything with a surprise attack and wouldn't declare war first. But then again, that kind of defeats my arguments that rules in war don't make sense. But then again, that you've got to have a beginning to it, I suppose. Or anyways,
did declare war. The declaration just didn't get to DC until an hour. 5 minutes before fucking Pearl Harbor. It might have been 15 minutes, but it was hey, we're declaring war. What the fuck? What when? Oh shit, we got another more important fucking telegram from Hawaii. Well, we should probably show these both. Guys.
Wasn't there I know I know not a lot of people like the more up to date Pearl Harbor film, but I like how they actually covered the intelligence of the US intelligence was hey, this is coming, and British intelligence was hey, this is coming, and the American government was nah, the Japanese wouldn't do that. Right.
Sounds a bit kind of reminds me of Stalin.
Oh yeah,
The Germans wouldn't do that. What are you on about?
Yeah, we're friends. We signed a pact. Fucking
we We signed a piece of paper. I sent my guy over to sign a document. Like, it's all good. It's all good in the hood. What are you on
To
about?
be fair, at that point, I can understand why Stalin genuinely, because the Soviet diplomats, I know for a fact, were working really hard to like solidify a like German-Soviet like proper alliance.
Yeah, the best propaganda that's ever been fucking implemented in the last fucking couple hundred years was making people think that the Soviets weren't on the Nazi side for the first few years of that war.
Like, oh, I've genuinely had someone tell me that it was actually Stalin playing 4D chess, and he was just
Fuck off. No, he wasn't.
Good for him.
TikTok, man, it's ruined generations.
He was a sweaty little coward shitting himself in Moscow.
Who genuinely cried, but he would have anyone
End of story.
He genuinely
End of story.
Right. Anyways,
wait. Yeah, but nobody ever saw him cry. Like they used, like you see him in photos now, and it's like him just by himself. Like there wasn't anybody around him.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, bro. Yeah, it's like, hey,
Stalin is Joseph Stalin. Incel confirmed.
It's like no one should go and Google who invented the idea of photoshopping before the before we had computers.
Definitely wasn't.
Only able to fly 135 miles per hour back to escape back to England, and they had to break through German lines again. This was the Atlantic Wall. This is what they faced at D-Day, which was manned at this point. It was manned by a lot of Czech prisoners, as they show fairly well in Saving Private Ryan. But the Atlantic Wall was essentially the most fortified coastline in human history. Like, from every single piece of occupied territory that the Nazis had. I was about to panic then, and I realised it's YouTube. I could probably get away with that. Was like anti-air guns. Like, there was so many men stationed there until Hitler decided to play the worst pro-gamer move ever and invade the Soviets, that it was possible to get men through, it was possible to get navy through, it was impossible to get air through without a lot of cover to like cover off the anti-air guns. So Charlie at this point realizes this, and he turns to his crew, who are still awake, and he basically says, I can try and land us and we might get caught, we can become prisoners of war, or we can try and make it back. And nearly all of them universally say, look, let's try and make it back, because we don't really know. Like, bearing in mind, if you've got your commanders at this point saying, if you get captured by the Germans, you're going to have like the most horrific things done to you, which wasn't far from the truth. If any of his crew had turned out to be Jewish, then they wouldn't be taken to the prisoner of war camp. They would be taken to the other camp that I'm not sure if I can get away with saying on YouTube. But yeah, becoming a prisoner was better than being shot to pieces, but his men refused. Now, just a day earlier, Franz Stigler brought down two B-17s, and shooting down another would made him eligible for a Knight's Cross. To Franz, though, the medal meant more than just an award for being a killing machine. It meant that there was some sense behind his fighting that he had done in his duty for his countrymen. Now, you have to remember, Franz Stigler is of the old German order and the old sort of Prussian order, who believed that war wasn't a sport, war wasn't for conquest, war was for honor, and like they would, that was the whole, like Prussia was a military state, and so it was military states tend to have a very strong code of honor, like Japan forgot that they were meant to be. Bearing in mind, this isn't me like hyping up Germany. Germany in World War II was a very bad place. World War I Germany, I'll have more of a defense for. But World War II Germany was obviously very bad. Now he's seen firsthand what bombers have done to the cities of Hamburg and Bremen, reducing them to rubble. I haven't seen Dresden yet. His flight was his flight is not about hatred or revenge. It's just about duty and survival. Franz learned his craft in his time during the Libyan desert with the Knights of when he flew the Knights of the Desert. Their star fighter was Hans Joachim Marcel, and he lost a brother to the war and witnessed the destruction of the Afrika Corps. He was then caught up in a desperate fight for Sicily under Adolf Garland, and where he would earn the Knight's Cross by shooting down the flying fortress, and he was set to earn the Knight's Cross by shooting down the flying fortress that appeared before him. He begins his attack run with the finger. It's also poignant. They've missed it out for some reason. The reason he has this code of conduct is because when he was in Africa, his commanding officer said, if I ever see any of you shoot down a man in a parachute, like the Japanese were famous for, as Tripp brought up earlier, if I ever see you shoot that, I will then shoot you down myself because it's dishonourable and like you're shooting an unarmed and undefended man. So this is very important.
Which is a weird dichotomy for Germans to have in World War II, which it was like, oh yeah, if you're part of the military, well we might, depending on who you are, show you the honor of combat. Also, oh, you're a civilian. Oh well, get in the fucking train.
After the concentration camp, you go.
Oh, you're Jewish. Well, we've got a fun.
Get on the
party.
train. Get on the train.
Yeah, we've got some special. If you're a bloke Jew, then you get to go and work for us, and if you're a child or a woman, moving swiftly on.
Get in the furnace.
I'm glad you said that, and you said that as you lit a cigarette as well. You know that's getting clipped.
Oh.
That's so getting clipped. That's so getting clipped. Stand by. Oh no.
Now I see why so many people keep on saying that I have a dictator vibe.
This is why you get in trouble on TikTok. Well,
It's just the thing is I don't do it. I do it without knowledge. Like I do it subconsciously, not even thinking. Like I just say then, "Oh, get in the furnace" while I'm lighting a cigarette. It didn't cross my mind that that's bad. That's a bad thing to do.
This is probably the best time to read this comment out. Pumpkin Bear sends, "My great grandfather fought in World War One and got killed in a concentration camp in World War Two. Friendly reminder: I am Jewish." Count.
There you go.
Okay. Condolences. My condolences.
I was really glad that I thought that was going to go somewhere else. I thought they were going to tell the joke where it was like, oh, my granddad was in World War II, fucking died in a concentration camp, fell off the tower.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, I've heard that one a lot.
I thought that's where that joke was when I was like, don't. Okay,
yeah.
All right.
I was just a silent reminder to count that you get. It's a touchy subject.
I know it's a touchy.
Geneva Convention. You mean more like Geneva Suggestion?
You mean checklist?
Checklist, yes. Napoleon Bonaparte claims that World War One is better than World War Two.
Right. I'd argue not. I respectfully disagree. Both were absolutely horrific. It's not something you want to say is better or worse.
Right. Okay. World War One was worse for the combatants. World War Two was worse for the civilians. I think I would say.
Yeah, I mean, like both of them go in the no checkbox. Like, hey, do you want to time travel? No.
If I have promises, if I can't be hurt, I would go back to see the conditions. I feel like to pay, but in a pay homage, if that makes sense. Like one of
I don't think
I would take a camera and walk around Dresden in like 1905 to be like, oh, this is a nice place. No one's gonna have these photos.
We can joke about making war crimes against the Nazis. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, for some reason, Dresden is just completely forgotten about.
Listen, if they didn't want to get bombed, they should have got up earlier and got Dresden.
Yeah, actually, I have a whole thing about Dresden for later, but
yeah, that's why I've been hinting at it. I'm building up for it. I need to hurry up actually before we're here forever. Right. Okay. So as Franz comes in, he notices. For one, he's not being shot at, so he flies in closer and realizes the tail gunner is dead. Then as he flies in over the plane, he realizes that all but like one engine is gone. That has, as Franz Stigler said, it was like it had no tail at all. And then he looks over and he's like, okay, so all there is wounded men, and the thought of the parachute comes back into his head. So he flies he risks everything and flies next to Charlie's cockpit, and he does the little wing waggle you see when they're trying to communicate in the air without radio. He then gets Charlie's attention and points down. Charlie at this point, instead of understanding that point down means I'll escort you to the ground and you can be taken prisoner, he takes that as, oh, my plane's just about flying and there's a Messerschmitt right next to me. Oh, we're so dead. Oh, we're so very, very like so. His brain's like, understandably, if you've like a Messerschmitt, one of the most terrifying planes like ever built at this point. They didn't have the jet propelled ones, like that was just at the end of the war. Is flying next to you, you're gonna be scared. So Charlie shakes his head, like refusing the order because he doesn't like quite know like, am I gonna be taken down to execute? So he refuses. He later said in an interview, when the two men met up later in life, that if he had realised what Franz was trying to signal, he would have said yes. Because he knew that there was very little chance getting over the Atlantic Wall. Now, at this point, Franz Stigler obviously goes, I've got three choices. I can either let this plane carry on to the Atlantic Wall, where it will be torn to pieces. I can either shoot them down myself and get my get my Knight's Cross.
So I want.
Or I can escort them. And he chose the last option. So he then decides to just like pull back slightly and escorts the oldie pub all the way to the Atlantic Wall. Charlie, unsure of what's going on, tells his last remaining gunner to keep aim on the Messerschmitt because it makes sense. Then when they make it past the Atlantic Wall, Franz looks to Charlie, gives him a salute, and then flies away. And then obviously we have the regular stuff. So back in England, the American bombers make touchdown. They're debriefed. Both British and American High Command then immediately classify the story and tell them if you tell anyone, you'll be court-martialed. Which is understandable because you can't have an idea of a friendly German pilot. Like, entirely understandable. Franz Stigler never tells anyone, because if he told German High Command, he would be shot. As it said, he risked his life 2 times that day. He could have been killed. Well, if you think about it more than that, he could have been killed by allies. He could have been killed by Charlie and his crew. He could have been killed by his own people, which he feared for most of his life. In fact, when Franz Stigler came out about the story years later, when he moved to Canada, and then Charlie actually lived in America just 200 miles down south. When Franz came out with the story, all he got was death threats from Germans, like in Germany, like, you traitor, you if I ever come to Canada, I'm going to kill you, because there was, and when this is why people will ask me, there's no Germans in Germany that still are mad about World War II.
Nice.
Yeah, and then obviously they met each other and became lifelong friends. And there is multiple interviews, and obviously I have the full story on my channel, and I highly recommend their interview. They also have Franz Stigler and Charlie Brown wrote, or I believe someone else wrote the book but interviewed them. According to the book A Higher Call, which is about this story. And there's also multiple artworks. But yeah, that's my favourite story from possibly history, apart from the time the Dutch ate their prime minister. But that's my inner libertarian coming out. But this is my favourite story. As I often say, if there was ever a story that stopped God from delivering Judgment Day, that would be it. Like in the height of man's bloodiest hour, like, to me, that's a very inspiring story of a man deciding not to execute what would have been amounted to an execution.
Yeah, because they were fucking different.
I think that's one of my favourite stories, to be fair.
But yeah, who wants to go next? I know you've both got.
I got a few, but like one that kind of directly correlates to this, almost a similar story. But there was a guy, his name was Robert Johnson, and he was a P-47 pilot. The fighter escort dudes, and they were on a bombing run or a bombing mission, fighter escort stuff, and they get into a dogfight with a bunch of Messerschmitts. And most of them get shot down, except for, this dude, and he's limping his plane off, and he can only use like half of his, controls. He's flying real low to the ground because his plane's all shot up. And another Messerschmitt comes in and, doesn't rip off one of the wings, but like just pumps lead into it. And one of the things about that is the P-47 was one of the most durable aircraft of World War II. Like, it was effectively a flying fucking tank. Anyway, Johnson can't really do anything besides just fly the plane straight and, pray, because none of his shit works. So he gets strafed. The plane goes back, strafes him again. And then the Messerschmitt comes up beside him, and, they make eye contact. And the German pilot kind of throws his hands in the air like, dude, what the hell's going on? And Johnson looks back at the German dude and he goes, I don't know what the fuck's going on. So Messerschmitt pulls back, pumps a bunch more lead into it. Plane keeps flying though. Pulls back up to the side, looks at him again. He's like, why aren't you shot down? And dude's like, I'm flying, man. I don't have anything to do besides just go this way. So dude pulls out behind him again, empties the rest of his ammo into this fucking P-47. P-47 just keeps fucking flying. Now, granted, it's not doing anything besides flying straight. So he gets the ammo, comes up next to him again, does this again, and if you're listening, I'm just throwing my hands up in the air, giving the what the fuck look. And Robert looks back over him like, I don't know either, man. And then the Messerschmitt does the, all right, well, mock salute, peel off, go fly away. And then John flies back to England over France, like, what the fuck how am I gonna land this? I can't turn it left or right. Like, okay, plan, get over England, parachute out. That's the only thing I can do. But he eventually gets the plane back to England and lands it. And I think they were going to go count how many bullet holes were in it, but on just one wing alone, there was more than 200 holes in it. So they gave up after
that hold together. I mean, that's just P-47 Thunderbolt. I didn't know P-47 Thunderbolts were that well held. I think this is a common misconception. Is American war industry was always taught to me as quantity over quality.
Mm-hmm. No, American war industry was fucking. It wasn't as good as, say, the German top shelf shit. So, you wouldn't have stuff that would go toe to toe with the Panzer or toe to toe with an Me-262. But a lot of our shit was real fucking close to it. And let's see, the US and the UK were sharing technology, back and forth. So the UK shit was very similar, if not, just a little bit a blow or just a little bit higher. The real crux from it was, though, we had material that was more than adequate and more of it.
Yeah.
There was a interview I saw with a Panzer commander, and his thing was the problem with Americans, or if you take a Panzer versus the Sherman tank, it would take 5 Shermans to take out a Panzer. The problem, though, was the Americans always showed up with 20 of them.
Yeah, which gives the image of, the Americans just make for quantity. I mean, to be fair, it also gives us some really cool tank fighter stories. There's some cool tank commander stories out there from the American side. British side as well, but it was mainly, there's a couple of stories involving Shermans taking on a Tiger. But yeah.
But also, the P-47 is almost twice the size of a P-51.
Yeah.
You look at a P-51, a Spitfire, and a Thunderbolt, which is the P-47. The P-47 would look like a Corvette, a Jaguar, and a fucking semi truck. Size comparison wise.
Yeah. Anything but the metric system. Anything but the metric system. I was like, do I say it? Do I say it?
Is 3 Aston Martins. Just say how many fucking kilograms it is. No.
I was sitting there, you could see it on my face, was like, do I say it? Do I say it's the most overdone job? But anyways, we will move on to I know you've got a very interesting story.
Yes, it's the Battle of Castle Itter, which is the only time the Americans and Germans have fought side by side with each other. So Castle Itter, it's located in the mountains of Austria, and the Nazis annexed Austria in 1938, and from that moment it was occupied by them, obviously. Initially, wasn't very interesting. It served as an Austrian headquarters for the German alliance for combating the dangers of tobacco. And that's not a cover for anything sinister either. That's literally what it was. Just a bunch of people who hated tobacco. But
fun fact about that, the Reich would say that tobacco was the red man's revenge for introducing hard liquor.
Wouldn't surprise me. They did believe all sorts of wacky things. But yeah, in 1943, they brought in some forced labourers to refit the castle as a prison, and it became one of the satellite facilities for the concentration camp at Dachau, further north, which was established in 1933. It was one of the first and most notorious of the concentration camps. And originally, it was a small place holding social democrats and political prisoners. eventually growing to a large network of 123 sub-camps covering most of southern Germany and northern Austria, as the Nazis made more and more enemies, including, of course, Roma, Jews, homosexuals, etc. And so, yeah, it was converted into a Nazi prison for French VIPs, high-valued prisoners that the Nazis could use as hostages if ever needed, including some of the most important people in Europe. Some of these included the former French premier who signed the Munich Agreement, Edouard Daladier. I can't pronounce these names, so apologies in advance. Paul Reynaud, who took over as premier after Daladier oversaw the France's fall to the Germans. Alongside them were military generals Maxime Weygand and Maurice Gamelin. And Gamelin fought the Nazi invasion as the head of the armed forces, whereas Weygand replaced him, surrendered, and collaborated with the regime before falling foul of it. It also contained Charles de Gaulle's sister, Michelle Agnes.
Really? I didn't know she was caught up in there. I thought Charles de Gaulle had all of his family out. I didn't know.
No, apparently his sister was in there. What's I got on here? Again, I'm butchering these names. Apologies, but it's French. I don't really care. Michel Clemenciel, son of Georges Clemenciel. That. The only
Clemenciel.
He was the only prisoner. He was the only prisoner who was fluent in German. The former Nobel Peace Prize. Nobel Peace Prize. Former Nobel Prize winner Leon Jahot, the champion tennis star Jean-Robert Boatra, and the French fascist Francis de la Roque.
I love the fact
all of them.
Sorry, go on.
No, you go on.
I was going to say, I love the fact that there was a fascist that wasn't fascist enough for the Nazis, and so they imprisoned him.
He wasn't fascist enough. But yeah, naturally they all hated each other. So imagine being locked up with a bunch of people whose political views are the exact opposite of you. The prisoners were split into three tribes: the rightists, who supported Vichy France, the leftists, who were anti-Nazi, and the neutrals, who were probably wondering, what have I done to deserve this? It's probably where I'll be, to be honest. So yeah, on the 5th of May, 1945, just a few days after Adolf's suicide, American soldiers under the command of U.S. Army Captain John C. Jack Lee Jr., most American name ever, teamed up with a number of Wehrmacht soldiers under German Mayor Joseph Sepp Gangl, who was opposed to the Nazis, to rescue the VIP prisoners. Joseph had been collaborating with the Austrian resistance. Joining them were French POWs and a Waffen SS officer who had defected. Gangl surrendered to Captain Jack Lee with a white flag on his vehicle, who was close by, presenting the mission to rescue the prisoners from the castle. An attempt for assistance in a rescue B, but the castle's Czech cook, who had reached Austrian resistance in a nearby town, which reached Joseph Gangl, who was now their leader. The German guards of the castle had fled, and the prisoners had broken into the weapons room and armed themselves with pistols, rifles, and SMGs. But a German Waffen SS division was roaming the nearby forest, and they'd arrived to recapture the castle and execute the prisoners. The American plus German group closed in on the castle. Lee and Gangl were greeted by the prisoners, who were unimpressed, ungrateful sods, expecting a larger force to liberate them. Which speaks volumes, doesn't it? Don't you know who we are? We deserve a bigger force to liberate us. So yeah, the German guards of the castle had fled, and I've already read that. Lee had ordered a Sherman tank to park at the front gate of the castle to cover the road, while Lee, Gangl, and the young SS officer had set up defensive positions and talked over strategies for defending the castle against the SS force. Now, just imagine for a second what that discussion must have been like.
I would have been loved to have
said. I'd rather not, because it would probably be something like, "Hey, so what's going on over here?" It's
just the fact that you've got Americans you've got a German guy who's defected, and you've got a former SS. This must be the most awkward exchange ever.
But you've got to think at the height of that, you've got people speaking Czech, you've got like people speaking Austrian, which I have it from German speakers. Austrian and German are actually very different, like dialects. They can understand each other, but barely.
It's kind of like talking to somebody from London and somebody talking from fucking.
It'd basically be like me trying to talk to someone who spoke Cajun. But you've got Czech, Austrian, German, French, and then American.
Can't imagine anything worse. But yeah, so in the evening, a recon force of Waffen SS opened fire on the castle to test their enemy's strength. The US and Wehrmacht troops moved to their defensive positions and returned fire. At dawn, the SS used an 88 anti-tank gun, which was well concealed, to destroy parts of the castle and blow up the Sherman tank, which was providing machine gun fire. The radio man inside the Sherman tank, thankfully, was able to get out just in time. The Waffen SS outnumbered them with around 150 men, began their attack from the tree line towards the castle and from the west, reaching the castle's lower walls. American and German defenders, as well as the French prisoners, fired on the attackers from their high up positions on the castle and loopholes. The SS managed to wound and kill several of the defenders, including Gangel, who was killed by a sniper rifle while trying to move the former French Prime Minister Reynard from harm. By the afternoon, Lee, America, and German defenders were running low on ammunition and were seeking reinforcements from Major John Kramers, who had telephoned them with the assistance of the Austrian partisans. A relief force was on its way, and as the situation got desperate, Lee accepted the tennis stars. I can't remember his name. Borotra? French name, either way. They accepted his offer to vault the castle wall and run past the SS strongpoints and ambushes to find and guide the reinforcements to their position. Lee prepared for what seemed like an inevitable SS breach of the walls and close quarters fight until at 4 p.m. the American reinforcements arrived with tanks, completely defeating the Waffen SS force and taking many prisoners, much like the Rohirrim did to Gondor in Return of the King. So yeah, the one and only time where Americans and Germans have fought side by side.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of those funny things too, because it's like in reality, what was going on was those Germans were like, okay, so I think we're losing the war, guys. Maybe, hold on, I have an idea to not get executed after this.
Yeah. Let's go. Oh look, we're fought the Americans. We're so good.
Yeah, we don't need to go to Nuremberg. We were on your side, guys. Yeah. We totally didn't do anything in East Europe.
Basically did in Italy. Italy, folded.
Well, I would say it's even more Italy, because Italy switched sides because of a civil war. So it wasn't the Italian army switching sides; it was the Italian people. They quite literally gave Mussolini a sudden drop and a short stop.
He had a nice new bow tie.
Yeah,
including my 91-year-old grandmother, who was a farmer, who was like, "You get out."
I mean,
we ever had enough of your border ass.
I mean, I did have something released. That's the image of your nan in World War II telling Mussolini to get lost is just eroded what I was gonna say. It was something to do with the Italian. I'll get back to it at some point. It was something to do with the Italian.
Well, I mean, I don't want to give too much credit to the Italians on that though, because also have to remember when that happened. Half of Italy was fucking occupied by Allied forces, so it was like, okay, so we might be losing this war. Hey, if we don't want to get treated like shit, maybe we should overthrow the government and pretend like.
To also remember the part of Italy that wasn't being like occupied by Allied forces had been occupied by the Germans, because as the Italian forces either surrendered or like fully flipped side and said, "Hey, we'll fight for you." The Germans were coming in, shooting Italian deserters and like massacring Italian civilians, saying, "If you go switch sides to the Allies, we're gonna kill you. So like, you better work for us anyways." Like, people forget, Italy, the last few months of the defense of Italy was entirely run by Germans, not
Germans,
Italians.
Yeah, my nan told me recently actually that my great grandfather, so dad, he was in the he did serve in the Italian army during World War II because, well, he had to. But he supposedly, from what she said, he actually got sent home because his commanding officer, from the vibe that I got from what she said, it was basically the kind of, this is completely pointless, just go home and be with your family.
Which probably saved his life.
It probably did. It probably did save his life. To be fair, I can't remember when she said it happened, but yeah, that was basically the response. It's like, this is pointless. We're literally about to be like, any fighting at this point is just wasted blood. You might as well just go home and be with your family. I mean, and that's what he did.
Yeah,
he tell the tale.
Not so much Japan. Definitely Germany and fucking Italy. Like, a lot of their military didn't like formally surrender. They just took off their fucking uniform and went home.
Yeah.
Well, the ultimate thing was, well, Germany was Germany and Italy was shit. Right?
The thing with Italy is it's very similar to how, because like, if you look at the Winter War, the Soviets should have gone into Finland and steamrolled that country in half an hour. But it took them months because Stalin was busy purging the leadership. What did Mussolini also do? Spend months purging the leadership. And that's why Italy struggled so much in Ethiopia. It's why Ethiopia, to this day, twice they beat off the Italians. And the first time, the Ethiopians just about made it. The second time, well, actually, no, they didn't fight off the Italians the second war. They technically did, but it was like at the end of the war. It's a complicated. The Ethiopian wars are complicated. But yeah,
but I also don't want to discount, meth head Finnish snipers.
Yeah, that's true. The Finnish snipers were all on meth at that point. Actually, Simo Hire wasn't. I believe he didn't take meth.
Well, the Finnish at least had
pure manliness.
Well, the Finnish at least had similar technology to the Soviets, whereas Abyssinia in Italy. It's like when you play one of these. It's like when you play Empire Earth. Old game, but it's like when you get to a point where you've got tanks, and there's like a little area somewhere that they're still using like the phalanx, like the spearmen. Like, you should steamroll that in an hour, but they struggled literally with literal spearmen, with people holding phalanxes and broadswords and bows and arrows.
they did have access to like modern rifles and stuff, but that was about it, to my knowledge. Yeah. Although there is a fun story of I suppose it's loyalty. When the UN went into, I believe it was Ethiopia, it might have been one of the surrounding countries that like split off as we started drawing lines on the map, because we give the colonies independence now. So there was this tribesman came up to the Italian UN peacekeeping force, and was like, "Hey, I'm keeping my oath to the Italians because you're Italians. I'm keeping my oath," and obviously he's very honor bound. Now this was fine, apart from every morning when they would raise the Italian flag and the UN flag to say we're a peacekeeping force. While they would all salute Italy, he would yell out something Il Duce. So every time the flag raised, he would praise Mussolini because that was what he was taught as a boy.
Good for him.
This episode has been so... I'm going to be so upset if I don't see clips everywhere.
The bottom line is Italy was shit.
Yeah. Well, they like the same thing with Greece. Greece at that time should have been seen, like, as much as I love the Greeks, Greece at that time was not prepared to fight a war on the scale that Italy was bringing. And if it wasn't for Germany, the Greeks probably could have been able to invade mainland Italy. Like, the Germans saved Italy. So literally there's telegrams Mussolini going like, "So I said that I would have the southern border and I would do the Greek. Well, it turns out that they're about to beat me off of the European. They're about to beat me out the Balkan."
I don't know. I'd be okay with a bunch of Greek women beating me off.
You had to make the joke, didn't
Yep.
Hey, I wouldn't. No, to be fair, I can understand it. Right, we're gonna quickly do some questions, and then we'll move on to one of the other stories.
I just want to say one quick thing.
Okay.
Any aspiring dictators in the comment section, or anyone watching, this is why you don't do mass purges, because eventually you're just left with utter incompetence. You know, you're left with peasants, cowards. Like, that's just the most inefficient people ever.
What do you mean? No one in politics has done that ever
you
since.
don't do it because you end up with assholes like us just berating you on the internet.
Yeah, right. Literally.
Like, no, you're fucking stupid. Go into the bunker and do the thing with the author.
Yeah, in like 80 years, in 80 years' time, there's gonna be like a futuristic version of us, like just absolutely bullying you. We did finish Castle, didn't we? We got.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I didn't want to cut you off if we'd missed the ending. Right. Okay, we'll go for a few comments quickly. Charles Lindbergh is the best pilot ever, from Napoleon Bonaparte. It's mad how Napoleon's got complex aviation knowledge. Then again, according to Ridley Scott in his new movie, I don't know if he shot at the pyramids. It was just a good way to show if he took Egypt, which has really put me off the Napoleon movie, which I was really excited for. I can't.
No, I haven't seen it.
It's out the 25th in the UK, and I was excited for it, and now I'm not, because I keep seeing clips of Ridley Scott saying, I wanted to cut this bit short because I wanted to do more of the battle stuff, and I was like, there's a reason that Waterloo is about one battle and it's nearly 3 hours long.
Yes.
Yeah, they got the whole fucking Soviet army out there as extras and shit. Man.
Yeah.
That was a great fucking movie.
It's the only thing the communists ever did that I liked, was like literally turn around to like, hey, do you want to take the Soviet army to a random field in Ukraine and reenact the Battle of Waterloo? Like, and then the Russians decided they didn't want to reenact Waterloo in Ukraine. I can't. I can't. Pumpkin Bear says I can't speak. So go on.
I said that one took a second. But...
Yeah. I had to let it simmer. Pumpkin Bear says I can't speak Cajun French. Is Cajun French that different from? I thought Cajun French, like Cajun, was more English than French. I know it's a blend of the two languages.
There's a couple different kinds of Cajun. Because Cajun as a linguistic term just means a bastardized version of whatever version. So like the Vietnamese actually speak like Cajun French, Chinese, or some shit.
Yeah.
But like American Cajun, what you think of when you hear Cajun, in the English speaking world anyway, it's kind of redneck Southern American, and it's kind of redneck French.
Can
There's
that
a
make
redneck,
sense?
right?
Yes, like Quebec. Well, Quebec must have like a redneck area, I suppose.
Well, dude, they're Canadians. There's like 5 fucking Canadians that aren't rednecks, and I say that in a very loving way.
And they all live in Ottawa.
Mad at me. Fucking just Google fucking anything Canada's ever done in a war. You're welcome.
Google trench raids.
Or like, hey, look, these are cans of food. Totally not hand grenades.
Yeah.
Psych!
In the reverse of gentlemanly warfare, the Canadians in World War I were just sneaking into trenches, like silencing Germans and then bludgeoning them to death, and then leaving, and then the other Germans would come in to like relieve the trench, and they would just find the entire trench had been murdered in its sleep.
Yeah, wouldn't even take the trench, because they're like, well, I mean, if we take the trench, we're just gonna get ordered back anyway. Yeah. So, I mean, if we make less resistance for next time, if we just do this thing at night with the knives. We probably won't get sniper fire tomorrow. That's an even trade-off, right?
What happened to Canada? What happened to Canada? They used to be so bloody ruthless, and now look at them in just 100 years' time.
Well, the actual Canadians that I've spoken to, like, depending on where, if the more city-dwelling they are, the more like Trudeau-ized they are, or sorry, Castro's son-ized they are. Yeah. But the more like there's actually a movement for. A part of Alaska and a part of Canada to become like an independent nation of its own, because they're like, we don't like the Alaskans and like this. I can't remember what bit of Canada it is, and there's a bit of New England as well. Not New England. That coast, the bit that looks like America's going, yay,
like Vancouver area.
Yeah. they were all like, we want to be independent because we don't really like the city people in any of our in either of our countries. So we want our own thing.
Well, the other thing though too is like fucking. There's a lot of unfounded fucking
singing for my hymn.
Yeah, like fucking like everyone says, oh, there's no guns in Canada, and granted, this is just my demographic. I've never met a Canadian that had less guns than I do.
I'm just gonna say, because people always say that there's the English and Scottish and Welsh all gave up our guns to the British government, and to you I ask, speak to anyone that lives in the countryside, and they will not have any illegal weaponry. No MI6 or MI5, whichever one is domestic. I do not know anyone who has ever told me they have illegal guns in the country.
Yeah, farmers definitely don't definitely don't possess shotguns.
There's definitely no one holding secret automatic rifles in the countryside. Absolutely no one. Don't go on to 4chan at any point in time.
Yeah, which is kind of a weird conversation because I have like 5 guns within arm's reach right now.
We did this last time. I can't remember if it was History Revealed or Roman Film we had on when you said it was when you said you had like 5 guns in arm's reach, and I just remember whoever was like, "What?"
Yeah, no,
is one of them an anti-air rocket launcher by any chance?
I mean, like one of them's in the civilian version of an M14, and you could shoot down World War II aircraft with it.
Well, that's good enough for me.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
So let's discuss business.
How can we sneak this into the UK for the revolution? We shouldn't say this. We live in the UK. We can't make jokes like this because we'll actually get a knock at the door.
No, you can't make jokes like that because you're over there. But since I'm not in my jurisdiction, I don't think that the Irish's problem is with English people as much as it's the British government. Yeah. So I mean, you got some potential friends that are only a hop, skip, and a jump away. That
but the trouble is when you
did not bury their guns after the troubles ended.
Yeah, but the trouble is when you talk to them, it's always it's the English. It's like it's really not. Like ask the average English person; they hate Westminster just as much as you do.
One of my favourite things is obviously we all know I despise Cromwell with a passion. One of my favourite things Cromwell ever caused to happen was making the Irish resistance at the time ally itself with the remnants of the crown. It's basically like the rebels and the CIS fighting together.
Outlawed Christmas. Of course he's going to be enemy of the fucking state.
Yeah. Like the Irish and the crown were fighting together against Cromwell. And I just love it because that's such an insane story. Right, I'll finish off these comments quick. Italy's military was terrible in the war. True. Hot take, Latin is the best language. Fair enough. Actually, no, I would agree with that. It's very spicy. Actually, Old English is quite cool. It's very fairy tale. It's also what Old English and a certain Celtic.
No, because the Italians now just speak a bastardized version of fucking Latin.
Yeah, and, Italian isn't modern Italian.
I don't know. Look at Italy after I don't know 200 AD. Like, find something to fucking brag about. It doesn't exist.
Romate, the Italian man is currently glaring down at the screen. I think it's actually someone said a YouTuber I watched, Metatron, who is like Italian. He said that modern Romanian is closer to ancient Latin.
Yeah, well, so's probably French, but I'm not going to give them the fucking credit for it.
Yeah, no, we can't. For all the Americans watching, France is the Ohio of Europe. I've had this told to me by multiple Americans that know of both states, and apparently I don't know enough about Ohio to tell you if that's true.
It's just between shit.
Yeah, it's just there.
It's a fucking reputation for being a cultural center, not because
France is just a country you need to drive through to get to Germany, Italy, or Spain, or the Netherlands.
And all the stop in fucking France and like start a restaurant or like have an idea or, I don't know, make a painting or some shit. So everybody was like, oh my God, this awesome thing was made in France. It was like, yeah, that was a Spanish dude on his way to fucking Germany.
Yeah, every famous French person is like French and then insert other country they're actually originally from.
Yeah. A lot of people think that like Picasso is French. He's like, no, he was Spanish. He just lived in France for most of his life.
Yeah.
He was also a Nazi collaborator, but that's a different story.
Yeah, people missed over that. There was a lot of people that are famous in a modern society that were Nazi collaborators. Ethiopia had resistance against the Italians the whole war. Fair. Pumpkin Bear said that's a clip. I'm really worried about what we said. That was a clip. We've said so much stuff. To be fair, yeah, like I always say to you guys, you can always take any of these like clips you. I don't know which clips you would want to take from the live so far. Cajun English is unintelligible to my Midwest ears. Punk Bear says my Louisianan is. And then specifically the grammar in Old Latin is so good. Hot take, fair enough. And then Mattis moment when we were talking about Ohio. So how many more? I know I've got the Christmas truce. I know we've got the surprise Christmas truce story. And have we got any more other than that?
I got one more. It's a short one.
Okay,
and it's...
I only have one, unfortunately.
The only other one I've got is Christmas truce.
Okay, but speaking of fucking Picasso, there was a story I told when we were on with Roman Found about how Picasso was a Nazi collaborator and the art world's bullshit.
Yeah.
And there was that German officer that, it's like, we use this for propaganda, and they leave the last half of the story out where that German officer was like his LSD guy. But it's that same dude. This dude was in the German army from like World War I to like 1944. And like after World War I, he stayed in the army because the economy was shit and the army's a guaranteed paycheck. And he also became a big celebrity in Germany, and they couldn't, he became a big celebrity in Germany because of a book he wrote called Storm of Steel. He also thought the Nazis were a bunch of fucking posers that were ruining his fucking country. So like he got offered a seat in fucking German parliament, and I don't know if the direct quotes go fuck yourself, but it's whatever that is in German. Yeah. And he was famous enough to where like the Reich couldn't kill him because that would be a big fucking controversy. So they, stuck him in, as a fucking political officer in fucking Paris. But
a bit
in
like
World War I,
Zhukov with Stalin, because Stalin couldn't kill Zhukov for the same reason.
Yeah. But in World War I, when he was a lieutenant, and this guy's a very fucking interesting dude for like fucking history shit. He joined the German army like in 1914 as a private, and by the end of the war, he was a fucking colonel off virtue of we go out, everyone gets killed except for like me and 3 other dudes, and I keep getting promoted because
I'm the only one
I'm
left.
the most. Yeah, no, and he works up like he was the battalion commander for one of the first stormtrooper battalions. Because the dude was also, fucking hard ass. But there's this story in his book Storm of Steel where they go out. This is around a place called, I think it's called Guillemont or Guillemont. I don't know. It's French.
Guillemont.
That's for it. I also Googled it. It doesn't exist anymore. Like it's a county, but the actual town got so fucking obliterated in World War I that they said, we're not going to rebuild that. Fuck it. That's too much work. But it was around there, right? So they're on their thing, and they capture a British, I think it was a battalion. And the battalion's about 1,000 dudes, but this is also fucking World War I, so there's like 300 of them left because you kind of just get schwacked in World War I when you go out. So they capture all them, and they bring them back behind the fucking trench, or back behind the fucking lines, and they take all the fucking troops and they sent them to the fucking POW camps. However, Ernst, who's the German commanding officer at this point, he takes all the British officers and he takes them to a fucking it might have used to been a church, like a beer hall or something, but at this point it's just a fucking half destroyed fucking building. And he breaks out all the fucking wine, and he didn't speak English, and none of the Englishmen spoke German, but he kind of spoke French, and a couple of the English officers kind of spoke French, so they bullshitted and handed arm signals and broken French while they drank all the wine that was there all night. And then the next day, with a fucking hangover, they get a white flag and they march across the fucking lines, and they hand off all the fucking British officers back to the Brits. And they're like, the Brits are like, hey, these guys brought us back. Don't shoot them. Let them get back. Let them get back home.
That's quite a nice story. I like the fact that they got absolutely hammered the night before doing it as well. They weren't just gentlemen. They were like, well, there's alcohol here. We might as well.
Yeah, which it is one of those weird things.
We might as well have a drink, yeah?
Yeah, like, especially in World War I, it seems like a lot of people understood, like, hey, man, I don't hate you. but my government hates your government, so we kind of have to do this.
Yeah,
I am just following. We are just following the orders.
That's why.
Yeah, my boss is your boss's cousin. Like, I'm not sure why the fuck we're doing this in the first place, but all right.
There's actually a very famous quote from King Wilhelm II where he said if grandmother was still alive, that none of this would have happened. Where he was literally saying if Queen Victoria was still alive, she would have taken Tsar Nicholas, Kaiser Wilhelm, and I think it was George, wasn't it, at this point? Yeah, it was George, because Edward came later.
Yeah.
It was George, and she just would have like literally clipped them round the ear and said, "What are you doing?"
Twisted their ears. Like you're creating a world war because of a family feud. It's a rich man's war.
But I will
One of my favorite things about that, and this is like meme quality shit, where it's like, so a Serbian kills an Austrian dude, and me as an American have to go fight the Germans in France about it.
The Australian version of that joke makes me laugh even harder because apparently on the globe, like Britain and France are like perfectly on the opposite side of Australia. So like, I mean, obviously the Australians were also had like some of the highest casualty counts.
Yeah,
it's one of the reasons the Canadians were so brutal was because the British like colonels would like say, hey, okay, these are our colonial troops, send them in first to get machine gunned and then we'll send our guys in, which obviously made the Australians and the Canadians and New Zealanders very famous for no prisoners.
There was another good no prisoner story, and it involves a Scottish regiment, and they're on the lines and they're doing the thing like, we get out of the trench, we get killed, you get out of the trench, we kill you, back and forth, nobody going anywhere.
Yeah.
And at some point, the Germans fucking snipe the bagpiper, and then all the Scots go into fucking rage mode. I guess is the right word. And they just
Scottish plus.
The machine gun.
Yeah.
And we're gonna bayonet these guys. We're also in kilts, by the way, because they still wore kilts in the combat at that point.
I'm fairly certain this.
Yes, I have heard various incidents of just during the trenches, the Scots would be playing bagpipes. You just imagine for a second you're a German soldier and you just hear the sound of bagpipes over the hill. You think, oh shit, the Scots are coming. The Scots are coming.
Music under like any Celtic fighter is like a very ancient tradition. Like if you remember, there's the ancient Celts that the Romans would have faced had a specific horn. So like imagine it's a foggy British winter. So like Julius Caesar's cousin's nephew's niece is that like nephew is like now the emperor because of a random series of events, and now he's decided we're taking Britain, and all you can do is march into the fog, and all you can hear is like this because it was a boar. It's meant to sound like a screaming boar, this like horn, and that's all you can hear coming through the fog. And then a few seconds after that, there's a bunch of naked dudes covered in paint. Like that's the last thing you hear and see. And then obviously the Scottish kept that going.
Which is why the Romans never really bothered to take Scotland, because they went up there, genocided a few tribes of naked men, and realised there was nothing of value up there.
They won a couple of battles, but it was just too expensive to hold on to, and like you said,
we're gonna build this wall and declare this the end of the earth. That shit doesn't exist up there.
And we're gonna make the Celts pay for it.
Do you want to know what's absolutely hilarious about that though? The Hadrian and the Antonine Wall were built specifically to stop the Picts from raiding. So like every time we try and establish like Scotland or Pictland at the time as a part of the Roman Empire, they just do guerrilla warfare, take out our supply lines, and we end up having to retreat. And like all it does was a cycle of like genocide, them like doing guerrilla warfare, coming back genocide, and so eventually the Romans just gave up.
Only the Romans knew about oil.
So what the Picts did when they built the wall, they sailed around it and just raided them anyway.
Yep,
gotta climb.
If only the Romans knew about oil.
Oh, okay, right.
Lamp oil. It would keep the lights on.
Yeah, right. Let's do your Christmas truce story, and then we'll end up on the nice big Christmas truce one.
All right, so it was in the middle of the Battle of the Bulge, fucking winter 1944. It's Christmas Eve. There's this kid. His name's Fritz Vicken. I think it's Vicken.
Can I just say,
Vicken.
the way you started this off, the way you started this segment off as if it, right, it was the Battle of so-and-so, 1944. You're saying it as if you were there. You physically witnessed it.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah.
Well, have you read Tripp's books? Clearly, he's got some level of time travel capabilities.
Anyway, there's this kid. His name's Fritz Vicken. He's like 11 or 12 or some shit, and he lives in a cabin with his mom, and his dad's in the German army, doing shit somewhere else. They're poor peasants. They live in a cabin in the fucking woods, and it's way after dusk because it's December and the sun goes down at noon. And they get a knock on the door. Mom opens the door, and there's like 4 Americans there, right? And one of them's like bleeding to death. He's like fucked up, hurt. And Americans try to explain to this German woman, like they don't speak German, she doesn't speak English, so hand and arm signals like, our friend's hurt, we're scared, we don't know what the fuck to do. We need somewhere to hang out. Is it cool if we come inside? And she's like, it's Christmas. Sure, come on in, man. So they come in, they're hanging out for a bit. And then not too long later, there's another knock at the door, and the mom's like, or the kid and the mom are like, oh, hey, more Americans. I guess they're losing the battle. I don't know what the fuck's going on. So they open the door, and there's, 5 or 6, fucking German dudes there. And they're like, hey, we're getting our ass kicked. It's fucking freezing. Can we come hang out by the fire? And then the mom, like, kind of looks back, looks at them. She's doing the like half face out of the door thing, and they're like, well, it's cold. Of course she's doing that. She doesn't want to let the cold in.
Yeah.
And then she's like, yeah, but you have to leave your guns outside. And then they're like, well, that's reasonable enough. Fuck it, we'll put our guns out. All right, wait a minute. So she goes inside, and then she hand and arm signals the Americans, hey, I need your guns. So they're like, sure, fine. So she takes their guns and puts them next to the German guns, and the German guys are like, what the fuck's going on? Those aren't German guns. What the shit? So she ushers the Germans in, and the Germans and the Americans, and by the way, there's like 8 or 10 people. There's like 4 Americans, 4 or 5 Germans, and this woman and her son. And they're all doing the, okay, so someone's still got a knife, right? Because we're about to have fucking like throw down on this shit. And then the Germans are like, yeah, and the Germans are like, we're cold, no kill. And the Americans are like, yes, we're cold, no kill. And they're like, okay. No kill. Let's just sit down. And then the mom, she doesn't have much, but I think the 8 or 10 of them like share like 2 chickens, a couple of potatoes, and a bottle of wine. So they had 1 bottle of wine, and they split half of it amongst everyone that was eating, and they gave the other half to the wounded American so that like he didn't have to feel the gashing fucking hole in his fucking leg. And then that dude's like, I'm gonna take a nap. Nobody kill each other while I'm out. Wake me up in the morning. But they all have a very pleasant Christmas together. And then in the morning, fucking, they all shake hands, and the Germans are like, all right, we're going to go this way. And the Americans are like, all right, cool. Kill you in 5 minutes. And they fuck off. And what's cool about that is that story, the first way I heard it was on that show, Unsolved Mysteries, like the old 80s one. Mm. And that kid, gave that story to the TV show, and he ended up meeting, I think 2 of those troops that spent the night in his fucking house, like later on as adults, or well, I guess he's an adult.
But so that was it like 2 of the Americans or 2 of the Germans, or like 1 of each?
That kid moved to America. I think that it was in America. I remember that much, but I think the people he ended up hooking up with were one of the German soldiers moved to America after the war.
Oh. So it's very there seems to be a pattern. There seems to be a pattern of Germans moving to Canada and America after World War II. Well,
on one hand, it's like Germany so bad they said, "Fuck it, I'm not staying in this Germany anymore." Or was it okay? The part of Germany I'm from is in the Soviet Union now, so fuck that.
Yeah.
Or is it that you beat them so bad into submission that they're like, you know what? Fuck it. I mean, they won. They're obviously the better country, so I can move to the US, the UK, or Canada, or.
Well, it goes back to the old adage whenever anyone goes, East Germany just failed because of the West. Like, which side did people run to when the wall fell?
Yeah.
Why did the wall come up in the first place?
Because people were busy leaving East Germany.
Exactly, because the West was prospering and the East was a literal slum.
Why was there so many Polish resistance units?
I got a funny story about the fucking Berlin Wall. So, like, I didn't go to college till I was fucking 30, right? And we had to take a foreign language, you know, for our fucking major, and it didn't matter what it was, just a language, which pissed me off because it's like, well, if I have to take a certain language because it goes with the other stuff I'm learning, that makes sense. But if you just want a language for the sake of a language, like I don't get that. But anyway, so I took German because German and English are basically the same fucking language. And we had a thing where it was commemorating the 30th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. And all the kids were like, "Oh my God, that's such a terrible thing. Why'd they put up that wall in the first place?" And like, I'm the only person there like, so do you guys not remember the 1930s or 40s? Like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say fuck Germany on this, but
It's fine.
yeah, no, they deserve that wall. They deserve that fucking wall.
It's fine. I've been watching the YouTube, the little YouTube censor that you get on the live streams, and it's not flagged us yet, so I feel like we're good at the moment. That actually reminds me of like someone I follow on Twitter saying how their political course was like very in places very clearly rewriting history. And I say this as someone who went to university. If you don't go to university, and if you do, keep your head down, get your degree, and then use it to wave around so you can say your point afterwards. Personally, because it is very one-sided.
Give me the magic piece of paper and give me a job.
Yep. That's my.
All right, well, you go on about this. I'll be right back.
Has it got to a point yet where they're saying no, it was all the Soviets?
Well, I studied film, and I'm not gonna lie, studying film was very, very pro-communist in uni. But there was like, oh, look at the Cold War, the scares, the Red Scare. That was like whenever we covered film history or anything, or we would talk about French noir. I do know people that have like done political sciences and stuff, and everything is just capitalism bad, capitalism without going into too much detail, because obviously I try and keep it.
Tell me more about this. Yeah, tell me more about the success of the Soviet movie industry.
For the British people in the live, I want you guys to look up the grading system here in the US. I'll have a look afterwards because I'm screen recording currently to actually do the live.
Why don't we look at it now while you're waiting for him to get back from his piss?
Yeah, can do. If hang on, wait. Let me. I think. Oh yeah, because I've got my second browser up. Hang on. US grading system. What's so wrong about the US grading system?
Is it just hammer?
In the United States, the academic grading system commonly takes the form of 5, 6, or 7-letter grades. Traditionally, the grades are A plus, B. I don't get what's wrong with the US grading system. What?
I'm not sure what you're referring to as far as that, but it depends on where you are. But normally, like the letter grade, and I don't know how you guys do it, but it's either like an A is either 95 or 90. And then a B is either 90 to 95 or, you know, what, fucking 80 to 90. And, you know, so on and so forth down.
Yeah.
And then like F is like a fail.
Struth, you count 60 as a fail in the US. Like 60%
It depends on where
correct.
you're at. Either 60 or 80, depending on where you're at.
Struth.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, what's a fail for you guys?
Like a fail for us is like if you get like 40%.
Oh yeah, no. Like worst case scenario in America, fucking 60% is fucking like fail.
This explains a lot. This explains a lot about. I'm not gonna lie. No.
Well, I mean, if a 40 is a fail in fucking England, like, why the fuck do you make fun of us for our fucking educational system? Like, apparently we have to know more than half of the shit. You guys don't have to know.
He's got a point.
But I'm also confused as to how I see so many TikToks of people like going, "Oh yeah, North Korea's the enemy. North Korea's it points North Korea on a map." The disconnect of like you think you've got an
okay, no. So
geniuses.
the reason we do that is because when people do those fucking videos, it's for shock effect. So they'll ask fucking 50 people that'll get it right, and then they'll find the one idiot that doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about, and then only show you the one idiot that doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about.
That makes sense.
But also, seriously, you can fucking pass with a 41% over there.
Yeah. Well, it'd be a very low grade. It'd be like an
Yeah, no. We're not talking about high grade, low grade. Like that's pass or fail. You can pass.
I think that must have changed because I definitely did not get 40% on some of my GCSEs, and I still failed them.
Yeah, like there's no way it's that low. It's gotta be
hang
higher
on, let
than
me
that.
look at. To be fair,
But to be honest, to be fair, from what my dad told me, and from what I'm starting to notice now, because I'm getting old, the education system in the UK, they do keep dumbing it down.
Well, I mean, they do that over here too.
It's been a long time since I was in.
My dad showed me some of the questions that he had when he was doing his O levels, and I couldn't wrap my head around it. I showed him mine, and he did it really easily. And then my younger cousin, who's 10 years younger than me, showed me some of theirs, and I thought, mate, this is piss.
Oh no. Okay. So, according to grading system in UK higher education, I can't find what it is for GCSE, what the percentage is for GCSE, but on higher education, so uni, and like college, bearing in mind college and sixth form, or I don't know, it'd be like the end of high school for you guys, or just after high school, just before you go to college.
Yeah, it's like a tech school.
16, usually.
Yeah, 16 to like 18, then you go to uni. So a D. So A is 70 to 100, B is 60 to 69.
Did you say 70 to 100?
Yeah.
And A is 70 to 100?
Yeah. C is 50 to 59, D is 40 to
that
49.
Has definitely been changed.
E is 30 to 39, and F is 0 to 29.
That has definitely been changed.
Yeah, 30% of something right past something.
That has definitely changed under the last 15 years.
That's what it's
dude. If you want to get 30% right to pass something, I never want to hear a fucking European fucking talk shit about American education again.
Well, no, not European. That's just the UK.
That's just us.
Okay, UK.
Your Americanness is showing there.
Yeah.
Europe ain't a country.
Well,
I mean, like, okay,
it wants to be.
Okay, let's break it
I
down.
know
Okay,
Europe
so,
wants to be a country, but it will never be a country.
all right, so let's break this down. Okay, so that continent is, you got Ireland, you got England, and Wales and Scotland and North Ireland are part of England. And then Europe is France and Germany, and then you got Scandinavia. Spain doesn't exist, neither does Portugal, and then you got commies after that.
That is an incredibly American. Hang on, I've actually found a direct.
Spain and Portugal exist.
No. In my mind, is what I'm saying. Like Europe is France and Germany, sometimes Denmark. Spain, what the fuck is that?
Okay, I found a direct comparison. So
it's on the map. I don't know. It hasn't been relevant in 500 years.
So both E and
it hasn't been relevant for 500 years.
Yeah, I found a direct comparison of like so. We have
in New York identify as Italian Americans.
We have yeah. That's I keep saying this to everyone that tells me they're Italian American. I go to Italy or go to Ireland with I'm Irish American or I'm Italian American.
Yeah, there's no such thing. You're just American. You're just American clinging. You're just American clinging onto that ancestry to make you sound different. You're not.
The
You're
Irish
American.
Americans I will give something because we did kind of force them over as a refugee.
Yeah, well, it's like, no, I'm boring as fuck, and I need something to make
York than an island.
My great granddad was from Ireland, and he immigrated over in the 1790s. So, like, yeah, dude, I was my dad was there for the Troubles. Yep.
There's more Irish in New York than there is in Ireland. Just let that sink in.
I've seen the.
In fact, there's more Irish.
There's like 8 million of them. Like there's like fucking 8 million fucking like Irish people, and it's like bro like listen, I love my Irish friends. Is that enough people to have a country?
I'm pretty sure there's more Irish people in New York in London than there is in Ireland. It really is an Irish free state.
Punky Bear just said I've looked into going into uni in the UK because of this. This explains why there's so many Americans in British unis.
Mate, it's not much better in British unis.
Why? Because they just want to go over and get a passing grade.
I'm not gonna lie, in British unis, you're just gonna get. No, I can't say
it's
that.
Exactly the same.
That's too political. I can't. There's no. There's no politics said on this channel. That's my Twitter. Which you can follow my Twitter, but if you're easily offended, don't follow the Twitter. Or or X now, as we have to call it. Right, finishing off because it's nearly 2 hours, and I don't want to keep.
Yeah.
You guys have donated your Sunday night very kindly, and I don't want to keep for too long. So the Christmas
Yeah.
truce, the big Christmas truce. There was an Easter truce as well that happened, which was again it was much smaller, and it was between the Austrians and the Russians. And it was literally
The only people that take Easter seriously. Makes sense.
Yep. And they literally just exchanged a few gifts, and it was a much shorter affair and on a much smaller scale. Whereas the Christmas
Do you guys
truce,
do Easter eggs?
yeah, we have Easter eggs.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the furthest it goes. There are some very Christian people, like my ex-girlfriend's family, who exchanged Easter cards. I didn't even know they were a
I didn't
thing.
know Easter cards were a thing. I know a lot of people that like go to church on Easter, but I don't know many people
Yeah.
that them.
They do that as well.
Christmas and Easter.
But otherwise it's just the Easter bunny.
Which I don't know where the hell the Easter Bunny came out of. I've looked into it before. It's very hard to find an origin source. He just sort of appears in like the Victorian era.
Sounds kind of stuff to me.
Yeah, like there's a lot of like, oh no, it's because Easter is a pagan holiday that we have
Easter isn't a
adopted
pagan
from the
holiday.
Romans, and it's like, yeah, but there's no evidence for that. That's more than 200
Yeah.
years old, and there would need to be evidence that's like, I don't know,
Where-
1,000 years old.
Whereas
So-
we have evidence, like I looked into it, whereas we have evidence that Christmas did evolve from a like obviously the people who did I know Christmas wasn't stolen from the pagans because the Armenian church celebrates Christmas on the 6th of January, because that was when they did the math and that was when Jesus was born to them. Whereas
yeah, but on that though, that's not the Armenian church, that's the Orthodoxy, and the Orthodoxy's it's Greek, it's really fucking Russian, and doing Christmas not on December 5th is commie bullshit.
I mean, you're not wrong. Technically, you're not wrong. But basically, what happened was the Romans were sitting there. They already had Saturnalia and specifically Sol Invicta, and they were like, people aren't going to stop doing these celebrations, but if you, instead of doing them to a pagan god, you do them to our god, then it's okay. And everyone was like, okay, we can still get drunk and shag prostitutes. I'm happy with this version of Christmas.
But also on that though, like if you take a critical look at it, Christmas is more Yule than it is Saturnalia. So I mean, it's more of a Scandinavian German fucking holiday than one. But
I would argue it's more closer to Saturnalia still. I would argue.
I mean, like Santa Claus is Odin, dude. Like the reindeer, that's also fucking Scandinavian. The tree, Scandinavian. The giving gifts thing, Scandinavian.
That's
like
true.
the only like Roman part of it is getting drunk and yay Jesus.
Yeah. It's very true. But anyway, speaking of Christmas, to finish this off, so on the night of Christmas Eve, I don't need the notes for this one because I like this is burned into my mind from a child. On the Christmas Eve, like of 1914, the troops are winding down, and it's specifically the story is often that the Germans started it, and the Christmas truce did start with the Germans. So it depends on varied from trench to trench, and it wasn't a unilateral thing. Not all trenches agreed to the truce. So certain trenches would they started putting Christmas trees up, like little trees with candles in. They were like little miniature Christmas trees. They started putting them on the edge of the trench. Some places thought this meant that the Germans were about to attack on Christmas Eve, and they were like, "Oh, for fuck's sake, we've got to defend against a German attack." And then there was like, "Wait, the lights aren't moving. Like, what's happening?" And then across the line, the Germans started singing carols, and in true English fashion, the English response. So some of them, to get out of the way, the easy way before people go, "You didn't bring it up," was some places. They just started shooting the Germans as they were putting the trees up because their like mates had been killed earlier that day. So it's an understandable human response. Some places they were ordered to shoot they also were putting like little candles in jars up. In some places the officers ordered them to shoot the candles down because they legitimately, in this case, literally cancelled Christmas by shooting the Christmas decorations down. And so yeah, and
that's fighting fire. That's fighting fire with fire.
Literally.
Yeah, you cancelled Christmas. Also, fuck Christmas.
In the places where they were okay with this, the English and the Germans started singing carols together, and as they got more calm, the English started yelling slurs towards the Germans in true English fashion. They were just like, because obviously a lot of the German soldiers used to be immigrants in the UK doing waiter jobs, so they would like call them waiters and stuff like that, and just really drug, but in a nice way.
I also like how like most slurs for fucking Germans is just some derivative form of cabbage.
Yep. It's hilarious. But as goes along, and then obviously you have the famous moments where people climb up over the trenches and they hug and then they exchange gifts and stuff. The legendary football game didn't happen because the image that we get from like the modern Christmas movies and Sainsbury's adverts and stuff was that the entire line was playing football. There was various football matches happening on the day. No one knows who won what game because it was less of a football match, more of a, hey, we've got a football with us. Do you want to like kick the ball?
I was about to say what?
Yeah.
Also, after this, remind me. I got 2 jokes for you that are very specific to this. But
Okay. Another thing that would happen, the main thing that happened, and like across the line, even when it was a mild truce, was that the different for like the French specifically didn't do it because the French the French and the Belgians had the hardest of the fighting, but a lot of the English, Scottish, Welsh, and like Canadian troops and such were like burying their dead. That was a big thing, and they held church services in no man's land. They agreed not to fire upon each other. Quite notably, there was only one commander, a lance corporal in the German army, who refused to let his soldiers go out and bury the dead and join in the church service. And that lance corporal...
You might want to check your shit on that, because the lance corporal's not going to be a commander. Like that's like,
like commander of his squad. Sorry, I didn't mean like commander of like his...
all right.
Yeah, sorry, I just
And that lance corporal?
Lance Corporal Adolf Hitler.
Him and J.R.R. Tolkien are just hanging out.
Imagine my shock.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, because J.R.R. Tolkien was in the Somme at that point. But well, no, the Somme was like far later. No, sorry, I should have been more clear there. I meant specific commander of his squad. He wouldn't let his specific squad go up. Like, so while everyone else was literally up and like singing in the same trench, there's like 5 guys.
No, you guys are gonna stand there and watch post.
There was literally just 5 guys just sitting there with Hitler going like, no, you're not going up. Also, here's a 5-hour monologue on the Jews. Like,
Christmas is a Jewish holiday, so we can't do it. Bro, you know what the first half of that word is? Christ. I'm not sure if the Jews are in on that, but...
Can you imagine just sitting there being like...
Maybe Easter. You'd think the Nazis would be bigger on Easter, you know, because of the whole killing Christ thing and, you know...
Yeah. I see where you're going with. I see where you're going with that, but but can you just imagine that being a German in that trench like that? Like, I think this guy might be a bit crazy. I hope he doesn't get into politics. Like,
I love your mustache.
Yeah.
He's a very skilled artist. I hope he does really well. And I hope after this he could go to art school.
I hope he
Dude,
gets
on that
accepted.
note, that's one of those things that fucking pisses me off. It's like, well, Hitler didn't get into art school. It's like, have you ever like looked at Hitler's paintings? Like, yeah, dude, like for someone who hasn't been to school, those are really good.
Yeah, they are really good.
I'm not getting into school.
Just
like the point of school
for YouTube.
The point of school is to learn how to fucking do it. It's like this guy should have gotten to art school. Like, I think we should all agree that he should have went into art school.
Agreed, but for the YouTube censors watching this, please don't take this video down. We're not praising Hitler. We're saying
no, we're not. We're just saying the guy that rejected him for art school is a fucking idiot and could have solved more than one problem if he just let that guy into fucking school.
A lot of people would be alive.
If you just let him go to art school.
There'd be a lot less political issues.
Well, and also, actually, this ties in sort of. I mean, I'll finish it. Wrap this up very, very quickly. So there was a lieutenant colonel, or lieutenant colonel to Americans. There was a lieutenant colonel speaking to one of the German actual commanders. And they exchanged gifts. I believe the German gave him some gloves, and he gave the German his scarf. And that officer, I was 22 or 23, and then he died. Like I think it was a couple months after the Christmas truce, and like the German geezer who gifted him found it and was like, "Oh shit, I killed him." Well, he didn't kill him, but you know, like it was a minor. A lot of people don't like. A lot of people go, "Well, how did the Christmas truce like resume?" Well, like. So obviously these people you've had play football, you've done church with them, you've buried your dead, you've laughed, you've gifted each other stuff. You know, if you've had it's been away from women for a while, so you might have had a down like the back of one of the trenches. With these guys, and so you shared it, and so the fun fact was it didn't. It got into the 20, so that most of the people weren't killing each other even into Boxing Day. It was the 27th and the 28th, and the German and Allied officers were like trying to communicate with each other to figure out how to get their men to kill each other again. That's how surreal this is that not widespread. But there was like officers on both sides, like trying to go like, "Hey, kill it!" And like, how do we get our people to kill each other again? And then they were like phoning back to London and phoning back to Berlin, being like, "The people won't kill each other." So what happened was the artillery on both sides, who hadn't been a part of the truce because they were miles away from the front lines, were ordered to do extra bombardments. And obviously, as you see your friends being killed, it makes you angry. And when you're angry, you act emotionally. And with emotion, you start killing the Germans again, or you start killing the French and the English and the stuff like that again. In fact, there's actually a famous point. The British Indian troops, because of Diwali happened at a similar time of year, they notably didn't want to go back to fighting Germans because they were like, this literally has nothing to do with us. We're just here because the British are here. And then obviously artillery comes in. And then the other way they did
it had potential it had the potential to stop the war entirely.
Yeah, if both governments hadn't been so hell-bent. Sorry?
And that is how fucking powerful Christmas is.
Yeah, quite literally.
Use that for anyone that wants that hates Christmas or wants to put an end to Christmas or change it in any way. It's like, mate, Christmas stopped several battles.
Yeah, Cromwell.
Yeah, Cromwell. Christmas bandwagon because you love Jesus or because you love it as a secular holiday. Fucking either Jesus or Santa. One of them has the power to do this.
From a certain point of view, spared some people from dying.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, if the specifically British and French and German, because the Austrians weren't really in this, and Belgium was like half a country at this point, if they weren't so hell bent, yeah, that's true. If they weren't so hell bent on getting their men to kill each, this happened very similar when two Roman armies met, and they were like friends on both sides, and both Roman armies refused to fight until the commanders just went, okay, we'll go home then. But because we had artillery and we could actually just bomb them into fighting each other again, we reversed it. So like the Christmas truce was this close to ending World War One.
Yeah, well, at least on that front.
And then Henry Tandy didn't, and then to end up, Henry Tandy didn't shoot Hitler in an act of humility of like, hey, there's a guy wounded across no man's land. Shall I shoot him? Oh no, I'll be nice today. And like 80 million people are dead. I think that's the lowest, actually. Anyways, what were the two jokes you had?
So I have two jokes. I'm frozen on my screen. I don't know if you guys can hear or see me.
You've come back now. Yeah, you were frozen for a second. We're back now.
Okay, am I back though?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's this English guy, right? And he's in the trench. And wait, hold on. What are we doing? Don't switch. Fuck you. Come on, give me my shit. Okay, we're back. Okay, go. Okay. There's this English dude. He's down in the trench, and he's looking at his buddy, and he goes, "Hey, these German dudes are fucking stupid. You want to see something fun?" His buddy goes, "Yeah." So he puts his rifle up over the trench, and he goes, "Hey, Fritz!" And this German dude goes, "Yeah." And then he pulls the trigger, blows his helmet off. German dude falls down, and he's all like pissed off about it. It's like, oh, fucking English assholes, blah blah blah, whatever. A couple days go by, Fritz is all fucking pissed off about it, and Fritz is seething. And he's like, those English, they think they're so fucking smart. I got a joke for him. So, he goes, "Hey, Tommy!" And the British dude goes, "Fritz, is that you?" And Fritz goes, "Yeah!" And if you're listening, not watching, the German dude pops his head back up.
There's
the other one.
The thing that gets me about the Christmas truce, like, because the whole football thing, who brings a ball to a trench?
Well, you're going to bring something to pass the time. Like, people were, like, in World War II, guys were bringing, like porn mags and, well, not porn mags, but, like, little cards with, like, pin-up girls, that was it. Little cards with, like, pin-up girls into battle.
Like
That's
fucking like when I went to Afghanistan, like I had my laptop. We were playing Call of Duty when we were out doing the fucking thing. Like I had a guitar there. People had fucking violins and fucking shit out there. Like fucking, you're not bringing your whole apartment, but like what you can fit in a backpack.
You're in real life. You're in real life Call of Duty. You know what I'm doing in the spare time? Let's play Call of Duty. Fuck it.
Yeah, there is like something quite funny that you're in the middle of Afghanistan. Like, you know what we should do today after a hard day of soldiering? Play soldiering.
Play soldiering. See how many kids we can piss off.
It's a fucking thing, man. I mean, because like different wars, different shit. But like in Afghanistan, like half the time, more than half the time, you're just walking around hoping you don't step on the wrong rock and you get to keep your legs that day. And then like that's the day.
Yes. I'm just imagining some angry kid is like, "Yeah, fucking ass, you keep going, bitch. I'm literally in Afghanistan. What do you want me to do?"
Well, okay. So the fun thing with that though is like, we couldn't, we didn't have like internet access or anything. So like we couldn't, go do like, with the rest of the world. But like 3 or 4 of us, we'd get together and, like Cat 5. What is Cat 5? Fucking, what was the thing before HDMI? Like what cable are fucking like actually?
I forgot.
It is. I think it's DLR something or other.
Yeah, we would do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, second joke. Okay, so there's this British dude, and he's out on a night on the town, and he meets this fucking young German lady, and they fucking hit it off. They get some drinks, they get dinner, they wine and dine each other. They're having a good time. They do a little dance. They kind of, do I think what the British call it. They do some necking, and then
necking off. Yeah.
The English dude's like, "Hey man, we should go back to your apartment." So they go back to this German girl's apartment. They do some like mouth to mouth a little bit more. They might do a little mouth hug, if you know what I mean. And he fucking lies her down. He's fondling her. He's fucking just like getting into it, like licking her neck, taking her clothes off, and he slides it in nice and slow. And they're having this like just passionate, romantic lovemaking. And then like right before a climax, an American comes in, punches the British dude in the face, and comes on the German girl's face.
It's literally both world wars summarized. Perfect. That's the way. I love that. I was gonna I do have a World War One joke, but it's like directly from World War One that they were telling or allegedly were telling the trenches. So there's a British unit. They're getting ready to train, and the sergeant and the captain are standing out the front. The captain asks one question, and he goes, "In battle, in battle there are 2 differences between training and battle. Now, in the real thing, you have real weapons and can die. What is the one thing that's absent from the battlefield?" And then the sergeant turns round to the captain and says, "The officers, sir."
So fucking when I was in the Marines, fucking I had a little bit of a reputation for not exactly being the easiest to work with. Mostly because I defended my junior Marines against the higher ups a lot. But we were having this fucking meeting, and or we're getting together for it. I'm talking to the fucking troops, and the fucking lieutenant comes in and goes, "All right, where do you want me?" And then I was like, "Well, you're an officer, so in your office, sir." But that last joke also reminded me, do you know how to make the best National Socialist?
No.
Okay, so the best National Socialist is as blonde as Hitler, as skinny as Goring, and as tall as Himmler. For those of you who don't know about this, I'm calling Goring a fat fuck, and I'm calling Himmler a fucking twink.
I was about to say I thought you was going to reference ABBA then, because fun fact, I believe one or two of members of ABBA were born out of a Nazi breeding program.
Oh bloody hell!
I think it's yeah. Well, at least one of
them. And this works better in like physical, not physical, but like image format. But like in World War II, there was a fucking, I guess technically now it's fucking submachine gun, but it was more of a battle rifle, fully automatic battle rifle, which was the Browning automatic rifle, but fully automatic, rifle. And people didn't call it the Browning automatic rifle; it's just called the bar. And the meme is, dude shooting a bar, and he goes, 3 Nazis walk into a bar. So yes, the best is dead in a trench, but
And on that note, Count, where can people find you?
I really want to make the joke I know about Hitler, but I can't do it because it will get screenshotted. History, you've seen it.
Well, I'll be happy to hear it in about 2 minutes.
If you don't want to do it on live, I won't do it. I'll end the live.
Yeah, that's true. I'll do it after.
Do you want to do it after? Would it get either of us banned or cancelled?
It won't get anyone banned, but it's one of those things where if it gets screenshotted,
if it gets screen recorded, you're quite okay.
Well, no, not screen recorded, screenshotted. That's all it takes. It's a screenshot.
Okay. I know the one you're gonna. I know the one you're gonna do.
In
okay.
The movie Troy. That is why no one will remember your name.
Yeah. No, I know the one you want to do now. I know what you're gonna write. Count. Where can people find you?
Yeah, people can find me on TikTok as Count Daedalus. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram as Count Daedalus.
And Tripp, where can people find you?
If you go to smokepitfairytales.com, all my links are there.
Cool. And as always, don't forget Tripp has
That's really
book out.
plug.
Huh?
That's really your plug. I thought you was joking.
What?
I thought you was joking when you said that. That's where people can find you. I thought, seriously, that's the name of it.
Yeah, dude. I got 9 books out. 10, 11, and 12 are coming out early next year.
Oh, fair enough. Fair play to you.
They're all on Amazon. We plug them. Even when Tripp isn't on the live, he'll come into the chat and I'll be like, "I'll plug your book." It's fine.
That's the benefits of being in the chat.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, people at home, you need to comment more, because when you comment, that makes the algorithm for watching it.
Yep.
People are watching, then it shows it to more people. So if you want fucking History Daddy over here to get more fucking goddamn followers on his fucking YouTube, maybe leave a fucking comment.
What is that?
Aggressive promotion.
And you shouldn't say that, because that'll make you look like a douchebag.
Yeah.
But I'm not your show. You're your show.
You can get away with it.
To you.
On that note, I'll read out the last couple of comments we got. By the way, I had a C- USA average in all my classes besides honours Latin, which I had a B+, and which we've learned if you was in the UK, you would have got an A instead of a C-. But yeah, I would like it's pumpkin. It's literally, I think everyone's finished off. So anyways, I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Bye, yours.
And we are ended.
All right, so what's the joke?